Welcome to States and Kingdoms. Jenna here.
Sean here.
Today we're going back through our collection of CDs and vinyl to talk about the bands that took the longest to get into and the album that got us into them.
Our last video was about albums that we listened to and then put aside and have not returned to. We thought about doing sort of the opposite, which is albums that we did return to and we found that we loved. There haven't been that many of those because, as it turns out, when we decided to do a sort of counterpart to that video, when we went back to the band, we didn't listen to the same album. We listened to a different album.
Right.
So all of these bands are things that we didn't necessarily listen to albums of, but they're on the radio, and I wasn't crazy about them. You know, I heard them many times, but I just didn't want to listen.
And then all of a sudden.
And then found an album that somehow just spoke to me, and Sean. I connected to. Yep.
Hello, Sean. So the first one we thought would be fun to talk about is actually the same for both of us. We both had a Smiths problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually got the first Smiths album in the mid to late 90s. I got their debut album. Thought, I need to know the Smiths.
Why did you do that?
I don't know.
Okay. Reading
about them. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
And I got it and I listened to it and it didn't really connect with me and I really put it aside for a long time.
Well, you didn't put it aside for that long. I did.
I put it aside for maybe 3 or 4 years.
That's not long. Long is 20. Long is 20 years. That's me. Right here. 20 years. Because I got the first album. I think I actually downloaded it.
But I had it.
Sorry, folks. Yeah, well, I didn't know that, I guess.
I had the CD. It was just there in the house for you.
Anyway, and I didn't like. It's hard to imagine why I didn't like it now when I listen to it. I think it was just the production. It just didn't.
It's kind of quiet.
The guitar was just not there enough for me, and and obviously Johnny Marr has kind of talked about that with using the jazz chorus and whatever. Anyway, I didn't listen to the Smiths for a very long time.
20 years.
Yeah, it was basically. The album that I really enjoyed listening to, and that made me appreciate, it's actually kind of two albums. It was Hatful of Hollow.
Mine was Louder Than Bombs.
Which is almost the same.
It was just basically the same album. They're very similar.
Well, also, Meat is Murder, and this is the American release with How Soon Is Now on it.
Yes, that's the CD that I got and I listened to.
Yes, this one I found.
And very disappointing to find out that the original English edition doesn't have How Soon Is Now on it.
It's only because I'm used to it. I'm expecting it. When I listened to the first album now, I really couldn't, other than what I said, just the production, I couldn't tell you. I should have liked it.
Me too, but I do remember.
Waited 20 years.
I remember at the time, I think the melodies and the actual songs they weren't sinking in.
Yeah, that's weird.
It took a while, and then the song started to kind of like stretch out in my ears, and I was like, oh, there it is. Yeah. I hear it. Like I very clearly remember when I first listened to it when I was a teenager. It just sounded like this formless Morrissey thing, but I love it now. So, being in the city in the very early 2000s for college, living in the city for a little while and just being around Manhattan and the music that was starting up around that time, I remember, the Strokes were huge, right? Mm-hmm. It was the Strokes. Everyone was talking about the Strokes, right?
Yeah.
Strokes.
Yes.
And I wasn't really a fan, though. The songs on the radio, I was like, okay, I never saw them live. Mm-hmm. I didn't really get the hype.
No, when you finally went to Mercury Lounge, what you saw was...
It was definitely not the Strokes.
Aces.
That was a few years later. So, I didn't quite get it. And I had a little attitude about them.
That's what it was.
I had an attitude about them. I was...
Rich kids.
Yeah. I was resentful of their rich lifestyle, private school, whatever. Yeah. I'm over it now.
I'm not.
I'm fine with that now.
That still bothers me.
So I had a little attitude. It wasn't until I heard Juicebox that I thought, well, wait a minute.
No, because I had the exact same, basically opinions, experience, and when I heard that, I don't know if maybe you actually said, Sean, listen to this, or you should, you.
I called you up, Sean.
Yeah, Sean.
I got something for you. You're gonna love it.
You know that sound you've been looking for?
Listen
to
this.
I didn't. You didn't even know it was the Strokes at first.
I didn't.
You thought it was.
That's right. I heard it on the radio, and I was like, "What is this?" I like the song, and I couldn't place the vocal.
Yeah, I didn't actually hold the CD up.
First Impressions of Earth.
First Impressions of Earth.
So yeah, Juicebox was the single I heard, and it was the first Strokes song that I really, really liked. And so this was the first Strokes album I bought, and it's also a long album.
I like this album.
I like it a lot.
It's my favorite Strokes album.
Yeah.
Although the next one,
Angles is great too.
Is very good.
Those are my Strokes albums. These two, but this was the one that got me to enjoy the Strokes and their rich life.
Yes.
Jerks. Privilege.
You were a big XTC fan, starting basically with Apple Venus.
Yeah.
Right, and then just started listening to all their stuff. You were trying to get me to listen to them for a while, and I just told you, to
I kept calling you. I was like, Sean.
Yeah.
You know that.
You know that sound? You were like, you are Marvin Berry. You're the Marvin Berry that everyone needs. It doesn't know it.
That's me.
Anyway, I actually had listened to Skylarking on my own around the same time as getting the Smiths album. It was probably a bad week or something. I probably shouldn't have done that. For me to have not heard something worthy of continuing to listen to Skylarking now just seems impossible. The only thing I can say is it was not as Beatlesque as I was looking for. I guess
you were trying to hear something and it was something else and you got confused.
No, it was described as extremely Beatlesque, and I just didn't hear that.
I didn't say that.
No, I know.
Just to be clear, I didn't say that.
I found it very Beach Boys-y later.
Yeah.
But at the time,
right.
I don't remember what I was thinking.
Okay.
I was like 17. I was 17.
Stupid.
Yeah. It wasn't until listening to this album, Black Sea.
Yep.
And this is the album I should have started with. And maybe someone could have told me that.
Yeah. In hindsight, that does make sense that you would like that, or Drums and Wires, or even the first album or Go To. I love Black Sea, and I'm glad you like it too.
So it's your fault. It's your fault. It took me so long because...
It is a great album.
You failed as the Marvin Berry that I needed.
I try to be Marvin Berry.
And the album...
Just throw it. We can get another one.
You can.
Yeah.
They're really easy to find.
But I was so happy when you became an XTC appreciator.
Devotee.
Yeah. Décolletage.
Yeah. They're in the Partridge Family now.
So this is a band that you had been listening to already, right? And I think we've discussed before that I don't follow you so often into bands that you like. It's usually the other way around.
Or musical genres.
Or entire genres. I just don't like rap, Sean. Just kidding.
That ain't the one.
So it wasn't... So you were a huge Deftones fan.
Yeah.
And I knew of them, heard them, but it wasn't my thing. Until I heard...
And this is like 97, 98, 99.
Yeah.
White Pony.
White Pony ever kind of passed me by. I was like, okay.
I saw them twice that year.
The White Pony thing bothered me because they got so much press and were touted as...
They deserved it, Jenna.
I know, but it was like every critic was going crazy for the album, and they were like, they're so alternative, and it's the alternative album that you didn't know Deftones could make, and we love it.
Yeah, well, that was a little annoying.
And so, anyway, it wasn't until I heard the song Minerva that I heard something that I liked from the Deftones. And so, the self-titled album, Deftones, was the first Deftones CD I bought.
Yes.
Pour moi. And I love it. And so I'm officially a Deftones fan since then. And I
saw them once.
Saw them in concert.
Tried to see them
one time.
Anyone else try to see Korn and the Deftones at Jones Beach in 2006? If anyone had that experience...
It was a bad day.
we can
There was
commiserate.
it was like a hurricane coming, and we were there, and we got stranded, and the concert did not go on at all.
They let kids like walk out into the middle of like Jones Beach at night. I just remember kids that probably never heard from again.
A lot of people were lost that day.
I hear from a lot of people that the Grateful Dead is boring.
Not me.
Good. And I do wonder if they've listened to the Grateful Dead, if they've listened to a whole album, which album they listened to. But of course, I would say, to be fair, that I probably held that opinion at some time as well. I think, I can't explain it. I think it's when you hear them, with a name like the Grateful Dead, there's like being a kid. You know, you hear the Grateful Dead, and it's nice, melodic, folky.
I thought they were like Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, and it's not that. Yeah. Even though the first thing we heard was...
Touch of Grey.
Touch of Grey, yeah. Touch of Grey was the first thing that we heard, which is an awesome song, so you should have known better.
Yeah, I always like that song.
But anyway, I got this album, Anthem of the Sun. And this opened up the Grateful Dead for me. This album is...
Me too.
It's awesome. It's wonderful. It's so interesting and,
proggy.
It is. It is definitely proggy.
I think these albums would surprise a lot of people who think that they don't like the Grateful Dead, or they think they know what the Grateful Dead sounds like. I would think so.
I mean, obviously,
I was surprised when I heard.
But then I listened to Working Man's Dead and an American Beauty. How could you think that's boring? Listen to it again. I mean, the melodies, the harmonies.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what people are expecting.
I don't know. But anyway, I would highly recommend listening to this. This is an awesome album. And might, change your mind about the Grateful Dead, as it did mine.
We collectively had an REM problem for a long time.
Yeah, REM was the most influential band of the 80s into the 90s. So many bands were influenced by them.
Yeah, so that
ones and...
Right, so the mid-90s sound that, I'll speak for myself, I equated with sort of mainstream...
college rock,
and it wasn't really my thing.
Yeah,
that sound I blamed on REM for a long time,
and that's fair.
Yeah, it stopped me from listening to early REM, right?
Well, that's the thing.
It stopped me.
The REM that I knew, and obviously there are songs from the 80s that everyone knew, but "Losing My Religion" was a video that I just hated. When I was like 6 years old.
You could not get away from that song.
Yeah, it was such a huge song.
Everywhere.
And I saw that a million times, and I really didn't like that song.
I didn't like Everybody Hurts either.
Well, but I also then, everything after that, nothing appealed to me. Yeah. And then you had bands like, and I'm not bashing them, bands like the Counting Crows and whatnot, that I just heard REM through and through, with a lot of those groups. And, yeah, it took a really long time, and what it took was basically these two albums. I'll hold up both: Chronic Town and Murmur.
Yeah. When we started listening to these, I actually didn't expect for them to win me over the way they did.
Yeah, I also Life's Rich Pageant.
Mm-hmm.
I love that album. All the 80s stuff I love, and I still have a little problem with the 90s REM. Just gonna say, I do.
Like Shiny Happy People.
Yeah, I still haven't been able to shake that, because to me there's quite a difference in the sound. Chronic Town is amazing.
I think I apologized to REM in other videos.
Probably.
So I had a real problem.
You start every.
Had a problem for a long time with the Rolling Stones, and I think you did too. Let's be honest. No, you. We both had a problem with the Rolling Stones, partly because we were brought up as huge Beatles fans.
I was not brought up.
Okay. We were huge Beatles fans. Our parents were great Beatles fans. We grew up with the Beatles, worked with the Beatles, knew the Beatles, loved the Beatles.
Yeah. They were 13, when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. They were fanatical.
Our parents, yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, and they also weren't really big Stones fans.
Yeah.
And the Stones versus the Beatles thing always annoyed me. I never liked hearing that, the Beatles were the clean-cut good boys and the Stones were the dangerous ones, and I was always like, ah.
Well, I still hear people saying the line that I don't is kind of annoying, You know, the Beatles were the first boy band.
I didn't see that you could like both. You know, it felt. I mean, you could, but it felt like you
really,
had to.
We fell for the marketing 30 years.
Yes,
30 years later.
Yes. So it actually took me a long time, and finally, it was this guy, Their Satanic Majesty's Request, that this is the album that got me to actually like the Stones. And I know that the Stones themselves aren't crazy about this album, but I love it. I love it. I love the songs. It was the first time I really heard something that I really could.
But what it did is it actually opened up the rest of
their entire catalog. Yes.
Well,
yes. This was the gateway album for me, and after this, I was able to listen to all Rolling Stones.
You know what it was? You're able to really appreciate Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Mick Jagger is the way in, and also I love Brian Jones on the Mellotron on this is.
This
phenomenal.
Is such a rich album. That it's I'm going cross-eyed looking at that.
Yeah. I listened to Joni Mitchell. I listened to Ladies of the Canyon. I thought it was good, but not necessarily for me. This was when I was like 16.
Yeah.
And you got really heavily into Joni Mitchell.
I did.
So I heard a lot of that, but I didn't listen to Joni Mitchell until The Hissing of Summer Lawns. This hooked me. And
so good.
And obviously this period of Joni Mitchell is my favorite. Court and Spark. For the Roses is great.
From
Court
For
and
the
Spark
Roses
to like Hajira. I mean, those 4 albums, are the ones that I really listen to. That are, and that is really you.
Yeah, those are that's the sound I love.
Yeah.
I think her songwriting on these albums, and especially this.
Yeah.
Is just so strong and so beautiful.
We have this on vinyl, and Joni Mitchell on vinyl is something else.
Joni Mitchell, there were a few things that surprised us when we started listening to records and having known the CDs. Joni Mitchell was the big one. Her voice is so rich. It just sounds so full.
Sounds like she's right in front of you.
Yeah, like you're in a concert. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, she's a great producer. So are you. The last one is mine, and it's not something you listen to, but when in the late 90s, I got into heavy metal through Metallica, Sepultura, Slayer, Pantera, the stuff that was around at the time.
Yep.
And I had a hard time listening to, like, 70s heavy metal. Not Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, those bands. Just, I wanted to hear, Slayer and Pantera, Sepultura, I just said. And Cannibal Corpse, and I was listening to that stuff.
Yeah, the heavy.
And I just didn't connect with the 70s, early 80s, English heavy metal. But I do really love, and this was the album that made me love Judas Priest. It's Sad Wings of Destiny. This is a masterpiece.
That's great.
This is a great album. Of course, it is more proggy.
Which I like.
Than like British Steel, obviously. Rob Halford's voice. My appreciation
crazy.
for it, just awesome riffs and
he can sing.
Judas Priest,
but when
amazing.
you really listen to this, it blows your mind.
Yeah,
and
then you listen to the other albums, like I don't know why this was this a problem.
Yeah.
So
their influence is completely understandable.
Yeah,
and I get it now.
Oh yeah. Do we have? Oh wait. That's why, this is why we talk about, we always give things a lot of chances, because
you never know. Timing may just not be right, and then it's right, and it's something that you love, and there you go. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments if you like any of these or if any bands took a long time for you to get into. Let us know what that magic album was. Please subscribe to States and Kingdoms, and we will see you next time.